Okay, video 1.3 is going to discuss the different kinds of labware and instruments we will be using in the lab this year. So first we have on the left here, we have a beaker. So a beaker just looks like a glass cup. It is graduated, so it usually has some sort of markings on the side here that show you about how much volume you have. However, it's not a very good way to measure precisely, so we will not be using it. It's just kind of like to hold things. Next is an Erlenmeyer flask. So the Erlenmeyer flask here in the middle, we will be using a lot. It has a smaller opening at the top, but it allows you to see the contents very clearly, and it's good for when you have to stir because it won't splash around as much with a smaller top, and it also will be used when we do filtration. And then lastly, we have a test tube. So we will be using these also. Test tubes are great when you want to just use a small volume or when you want to heat them. It's easy to heat up a test tube over a Bunsen burner. Okay, next we have, so now these three things are for when you actually do want to know the volume. So the first one on the left here, this is a very precise way to measure volume. So it's called a volumetric flask. It has a round bottom, and you can't really see it in this picture, but on the neck about right here, there would be a line. So what they do is when they make these, they actually calibrate them. They measure how much liquid, like this one says it's a 500 milliliters. So 500 milliliters would be when you fill the liquid to just exactly at that line. So it's a good way of measuring very precise amounts. Next is a graduated cylinder. We will be using these a bunch. So it's just a cylinder which has marks on it. There's several different sizes, all the way from, we down from 10 to 100 milliliters that we will be using. And they have different scales on the side here, which will tell you how much liquid you have. We will be using these a lot. And then next is a burette. So a burette is another way of dispensing liquid. It has a little valve at the bottom here. You can open that and you can see that there's little marks on the side, and those marks will tell you how much liquid you have dispensed. So we will be using those in several labs. Next, we have tongs. So the tongs are used for picking up glassware when it's hot. If you guys remember from your safety contract, when you cannot tell when glass is hot. So tongs are very useful. These tongs specifically are really good for Erlenmeyer flasks. The little neck of the flask fits really nicely in that little opening there so that you can lift it up off of a hot surface. Next is a scupula. So a scupula is used when you want to get some sort of chemical out of a container. Most of the time I will put the chemicals in labeled beakers for you guys when we do labs, and then you will use a scupula to get a precise amount out and measure it. Next is a barrel pipette. So a barrel pipette is just a way of dispensing liquid from one container to another. You can use it to just see drop by drop where your volume is on a graduated cylinder, but we will be using these in several labs. They do not have any markings though, so you cannot tell how much you are dispensing. And then we have a graduated pipette. So a graduated pipette has marks on the side so you can pick up a certain amount of volume, and it has a bulb at the top. So the bulb, you just squeeze it and then release it to suck up liquid out of usually a beaker. All right, next we have a well plate. A well plate right here has several, we will use these for several labs too, has little wells or little tiny cylinders where you can put liquid in them. It's usually clear on the bottom so that you can see, you can lift it up and look at the bottom too to see, like for example, if you have a solid that formed or what your chemical looks like. We're going to be using a funnel to filter things. With that, you will be using filter paper. So we'll have another video about this later, about how to correctly filter things. But you take the filter paper, kind of just like making coffee. You take the filter paper, you fold it and put it in the funnel. That allows you to separate your liquid from your solid. And then next we have a ring stand. So a ring stand is just used to hold different things. Sometimes we'll use it to hold a test tube. A burette might be held by a ring stand, or you might actually put something like a Erlenmeyer flask on a ring stand and heat it from the bottom with a Bunsen burner. All right, on the left here, we have an electronic balance. So our electronic balances right here are used to measure the mass of the chemicals we'll be using in lab. So it's a dry mass. Well, you can use them actually to measure water if you would put it in a beaker. There will also be another video about how to use these correctly. And if you'll notice in the back of the lab, we have several different balances. They have different scales. So some of them are more precise than others. We will be using a hot plate and it has a stirring function on it also. So the hot plate stirrer is in the middle here. The hot plate just works by heating things up. Most of ours go up to 550 degrees Celsius. That allows us to boil water quickly, which we will be doing multiple times. And then also you can stir solutions with this by using like a magnetic bar. There's like a magnetic stir in the middle, and we will be using that also. And then on the right here, we have our Bunsen burner. The Bunsen burner is used to heat up substances. It uses a gas line. There will also be another video about how to use those correctly in the next unit. All right, that's it.